Oh, it says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Is that correct?
That appears to be correct. I'll keep an eye on it though, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Thanks.
we're good? Okay, Councillor Keith, you had a question.
Yes, Mr. Harris, can you just clarify under the terms of reference, what is the suggestion there for the elected official? What role would be requested most appropriate to play?
Through the mayor to Councillor Keith, the terms of reference are attached to the staff report. We turned on the top of page 3. Members of council are appointed to the Municipal Stakeholders Board. So under A, under the Stakeholders Board, the first sentence reads, the Municipal Stakeholders Board are elected officials comprised of the heads of council or designate, and then it lists the municipalities. These terms of reference were approved, I think, by the town of Parry Sound in 2017, other municipalities in 2018. So this has been in place for a little while.
You're muted, Councillor Keith.
Mr. Harris, can you clarify, are some of the other representatives on the committee, are they also heads of council?
Through the mayor to Councillor Keith, these revised terms of reference, we just agreed last week. So the idea is to get them to our respective councils in May if possible. So we're the first municipality that's going to be making this appointment and approving the new terms of reference, the amended terms of reference.
Councillor McCann.
When REDAC was in place, this was before my time, what was the protocol there in terms of representatives from our council or mayor? Do you recall?
Through the mayor to Councillor McCann. That's before my time as well. And I know there were representatives from members of council, various councils on the committee, but I don't know what the protocol was.
I was the rep at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bachman.
As someone who actually I participated in those meetings, and I do recall that Councillor Keith did attend any of the meetings that I participated in. And I know Lynn Middaugh played the role of administrator, and often I would see Rob Menz at the meetings. And I guess just as a follow-up to Mr. Harris's comment, I guess, or sorry, with regards to your comment, Mayor McGarvey, in that the heads primarily will take this role. I guess that, I guess if that were the case, then would these terms of reference not just say
You seem to be frozen, Councillor Bachman.
then, or so as I was stating, I guess in regards to the terms of reference and your comment about the heads of council primarily going to take on this role, if that were the case, I guess I'm just wondering why the terms of reference approved by the participating municipalities, CAOs, which comprise the steering committee, would then put comprised of heads of council or designate.
Are you back?
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, okay. My answer would have to be that that typically would be the case, and if the mayor or Reeve did not want to do it, then they wouldn't, and they would designate somebody else to do it.
So then, just as a follow-up, if you are an ex officio on this, which we haven't clarified the Municipal Act, would that not lead an opportunity for an elected official of council to participate? Which then, if we were unable to participate or that elected, you would then be able to participate in that role.
I don't think this committee works that way. I can't speak for certain, but I think that's the way it is. Quite frankly, let's let council decide. That's fine.
Thank you.
Councillor Horn.
So I'm just confused. If the terms of reference say heads of council, the mayor is heads of council. By default, the head of council should be on the committee, which is the mayor. Sorry. Why are we debating this?
Councillor Bachman.
Because it says or designate. So that's what this is our
Or-
opportunity to discuss approving these terms of reference. So that is why we are having a fulsome conversation about it. That's all.
Councillor Horn.
Then we would appoint the designate.
That's right. Councillor McCann.
Well, I was just going to say what Councillor Bachman had just said, that because the wording does says or, which seems to be the operative word. I guess maybe we need to put it to a vote on. I hate to see this happen because it always divides, but council may have to be asked to make to vote on this then if you've got two people who are interested.
Yeah. Councillor Keith.
Well, I was just going to say, to start with, I mentioned before, if the head of council is appointed to this position, there's a designate. And if Councillor Bachman is very interested in the position, which it seems she is, if the mayor was to determine that she should be the designate because the mayor can't go to the meeting, it would seem to me that would be a solution. If that isn't a solution, even though we know it's quite common for these terms of reference to say the heads of council or designate, it's kind of like, hi there, how you doing? It's just the way it is. But if we can't determine that, let's have a vote and let's get on with it, please.
Yeah. Councillor Borneman.
I think Councillor Keith covered it adequately.
Okay. Because we can always have an alternate as well. So, Councillor Borneman.
And I think that's where we should go.
Okay. All right, somebody.
So you're frozen.
Councillor Keith. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I couldn't
Yeah.
hear you.
Am I frozen?
Not now.
Okay, Councillor Keith is waving her arm.
Yes, so I move the motion that the mayor, the head of council, be appointed to this committee.
Okay. Councillor Borneman.
And we add a friendly addition or amendment to that Councillor Bachman be named as the mayor's alternate in cases where he's unable to attend.
Sure,
I-
I can support that.
Councillor McCann.
Well, I was going to say that I support that as well, too.
Anything further from anyone else? Councillor Bachman.
Yes, I would just like to thank my fellow colleagues in supporting this. I am here to learn, and unless I participate, I really am eager to play a role in whatever capacity council chooses. Thank you.
Okay. Anything from anyone else? Okay, so all those or anyone opposed to the resolution with regard to participation on this committee? No, no one's opposed. So we go back then to the resolution. And I'll add in my name and as an alternate, Councillor Backman's. Okay, any comments on the resolution as amended? No? Anyone opposed to passing the resolution as amended? No, that's carried then. Thank you, everyone. First, are we still live streaming okay?
We appear to be, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. All right, moved by Councillor Burden and second by Councillor Borneman, whereas the town of Parry Sound has a stormwater conveyance over 1 Georgian Bay, and whereas Parry Sound Condominium Corporation number 6, owner of 1 Georgian Bay Avenue, is in favor of granting an easement. Now therefore, the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the transfer documents to register the easement attached to Schedule A. Any discussion? Councillor McCann.
Yeah, I guess if we could get Mr. Kearns to tell us a bit about what this is about and specifically what part of the 1 Georgian Bay Avenue is involved with this, because I know it's a big piece of property.
Through your worship. So 1 Georgian Bay Avenue is actually the condominium corporation, not the townhouses located on Georgian Bay Avenue.
That's correct. Yeah, we used to live there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a historic stormwater conveyance through the property, which was rebuilt, replaced during the reconstruction of Wabick Street and Prospect Street over that period of time. So this is essentially just formalizing the agreement and the easement for the location of that stormwater infrastructure, and to allow us to maintain it and replace it in perpetuity.
Great, thank you.
Anything further? No. Anyone opposed to the passing of this resolution? No, that's carried then. Item 951, moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Horn. Whereas June has been declared a PTSD Awareness Month each year around the world, and whereas for centuries we have recognized post-traumatic stress disorder, and whereas PTSD can affect all ages, children through to seniors, and whereas treatment for PTSD is available, and whereas it's up to each of us to know that PTSD assessment form is a major tool to seek medical assistance. And whereas PTSD Awareness Month urges all to seek help for those who may have PTSD requiring medical assistance. And now therefore Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound does hereby proclaim June as PTSD Awareness Month in the Town of Parry Sound, and encourages residents to actively learn about PTSD assessment about the PTSD assessment form written by the Center for PTSD Research as a tool to assist those affected by PTSD to obtain medical assistance. Any discussion? No. Anyone opposed to the passing of this resolution? No, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor Burton, that bylaw number 2021-7128, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound, to authorize the borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $750,424 towards the cost of servicing Macklin and Dennis be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Burden and second by Councillor Borneman that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Actually, Taylor, do you, or maybe Ms. Phillips, do you want to give kind of a rationale why this is being done and what the follow-up is with the properties as well, and payback?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the bylaw before council will authorize the borrowing of $750,424. The term of that is over 20 years. And the interest rate is 2.81% per year. So the property owners that haven't paid yet have opted into a payment plan. And that plan will be billed along with the property taxes twice per year. The plan will include 2.81% in annual interest. The interest overall is $235,641 over the 20 years. And after the bylaw, if the bylaw is approved, the payment plans will be sent out to all the property owners, and the implementation of that will be that with this year's final billing, one of those repayment terms will happen for 2021, and then over the next 20 years, 2 per year will happen along with property tax billings. This is typical for local improvement act applications. So,
yep. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? No. Okay. Anyone opposed to the passing of the bylaw? No, that's carried then. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Horn, that bylaw number 2021-7124 being a bylaw to amend the sign bylaw 2002-4486 regarding sandwich board signs be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Councillor McCann.
So I think there are a lot of people who are happy to see this. Maybe we could ask Ms. Kruger to talk about what some of the more significant changes are to this bylaw.
Thank you. Through your worship, this is an amendment being proposed to the sign bylaw in regards to specifically sandwich board and small gravity signs. So the significant changes would see that one sandwich board sign is permitted per business in town without an application or permit fee. Previously, the downtown businesses within a set area were permitted a sandwich board sign, while the remainder of businesses in town outside of that designated area were required to submit an application and pay a permit fee of $30 per year. So we have amended or proposed the amendment that all businesses would be permitted that one sandwich board sign to advertise their business without an application or the fee that has previously been involved. The same regulations would stand for placement of signs and maintenance of signs. But we've changed that one piece so that they can only have the one sandwich board sign without a fee. If they wanted an additional sign, they would have to apply, and then there would be a fee involved at that point.
Okay, and as I understand it, this is for the residents and businesses of Parry Sound. Only this this precludes businesses in outlying municipalities unless there is a special exemption made, which I seem to recall we did for the, I'm not going to remember who their official name, but they had something that they normally did at the arena, and they had to move it south to Seguin because of, I guess, scheduling problems. This was before COVID. So anyways, I'm glad to see this has come into effect.
Yes, and through your worship, there's still the special event signage, which probably captured some of those specific instances where events were looking to place signs. That section of the sign bylaw has not been amended at this time. This would specifically speak for the businesses in town having the ability to advertise with that sandwich board sign.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw? Not seeing that, so that's carried. Now, the next two bylaws, we're going to actually do them. We're going to do 10.4.3 first and then 10.4.2. It's my understanding from the clerk and from bylaw is that they should have followed this way in progression. So is that correct?
That's a recommendation, Mayor McGarvey. I do see, unfortunately, Councillor Horn has stepped away because he declared a conflict on 10.4.2.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
we've got a way of getting Councillor
yeah, the
Horn.
bylaw enforcement officer, Ms. Kruger, could explain whether it's not necessary to change them.
Okay.
We just thought it may be helpful to
Okay.
do them in a certain order, but it may not be that
Then-
material.
Ms. Kruger?
We can proceed as the agenda stands at this point. Since
Okay.
Councillor Horn has stepped away, it may have flowed a little bit better in the other direction, but that's okay.
Okay, all right. As long as we're not trying to push water up a hill, everything's good. Okay. All right, so moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by, oh, geez, okay. So this one was moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn, so I'm gonna have to change that. Moved by Councillor Keith, seconded by Councillor Backman. The bylaw number 2021-7125 being a bylaw to amend the parking and traffic control bylaw 2019-6912 regarding Champagne Street boat launch overnight parking and parking on Salt Dock Road be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. So moved by Councillor Backman and seconded by Councillor Keith that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Okay, discussion. I am going to ask one question, and that is, I noticed that you had the no parking from Wood Street to on Marion Avenue, like for Wood Street down to Salt Dock Road. There are a number of people that have kind of front yards, bigger areas and that sort of thing that I have noticed. I grew up in that particular area, so they do park out front of their house or, you know, kind of off to the side of the road. There's still plenty of room to get by. Could we not move it to Georgina? And then that way it shrinks it that way? What was the rationale behind Wood Street?
Through your worship, the rationale was that if we created no parking on Salt Dock Road, beginning at Georgina and going the distance to Salt Docks, that you would see an increase in the individuals that would have been using that area to park, moving onto Marion, that section between Wood and Georgina, and making use of those spots and parking in front of those residences, and possibly causing congestion there when it comes to driveway blocking as well. When we're looking at pedestrian traffic coming down, that is the route that the trucks are taking. So we're looking at it from a point of view of pedestrians as well, walking along the side of the road at that point, not wanting to have vehicles parked in that section, causing a further obstruction on the roadway.
Okay, all right. I was just thinking of those people and having company or whatever and that sort of thing, and it's going to push their company further afield. That's
And through your worship, it could be considered from Georgina. There was just a concern that the impact would then simply move, from the lower portion on Salt Dock Road to that section of Marion between Georgina and Wood, and cause a negative impact to those residents.
okay. Okay, Councilor McCann.
Well, I have another question, but for the next one, but actually just what Ms. Kruger was speaking on behalf of, for the people who live, own visitors coming, is it possible that that they could have permits that they could be issued to their visitors rather than just sort of close off the parking altogether? Or am I out of the ballpark here?
Through your worship, I think I got most of that question. It did cut out for a moment there. Permits weren't something that we looked at this time. There is still roadside parking, of course, along the fitness trail on the south side of Salt Dock Road, as well as on the north side, just east of the condos and down on the Salt Docks. So all the roadside parking spaces that are currently being used would all still be available for parking. This would simply be prohibiting on road parking, so on the edge of the road, whereby it does cause congestion with traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? No? Okay. Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw then? No, that's carried then. Now, I'm going to ask Ms. Kruger if the residents in that stretch between Wood Street and Georgina all of a sudden are upset that they've lost some parking out front, okay? Do they have a right to appeal or ask about changing this?
Through your worship, we're definitely always open to listening to residents' concerns. These changes were, notice was put out for changes to the parking and traffic bylaw through the paper and on the website. We didn't receive any correspondence specific to the parking on Salt Dock Road, but if it did become a concern for residents, that is something that we could revisit. Absolutely.
Okay, all right, good enough. It's 10-4-3, moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Burden. That bylaw number 2021-71-26 being a bylaw to regulate the use of public docks, piers, boat launch ramps, and revoked bylaw 2010-54-70 be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Okay, carried. Moved by Councillor Burden and second by Councillor Borneman that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Yeah, the question I came up at some point about whether or not residents of Parry Sound would be able to put a permit on their vehicle to be forgiven for overnight parking costs. Is that something that was considered, or am I missing something here?
Through your worship. So the cost for the overnight parking permits, which would have been in conjunction with the parking bylaw amendment, that did include a prohibition of overnight parking other than at Champagne Boat Launch, whereby there would be parking via a permit. So it's actually captured within the parking and traffic control portion. This bylaw is the public dock and boat launch, so it just speaks to use of the docks, not the adjacent parking lots.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm ahead of myself here.
Anything further on this one then? No? Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw? No? Okay, that's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Backman, that bylaw number 2021-7127 being a bylaw that authorized the execution of a license of occupation with Sound Boat Works for the use of the property identified as Part Water Lot C west of Mill Street, Foley, as in PS 8343, except Part 11, 42R 6597 and Part 4, 42R 1147-1. Parry Sound be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. We seem to have lost Councillor Backman. Okay. I will put in Councillor, she was there, I think, for the first part, now gone, so. By Councillor Burden. Second by Councillor McCann, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion on this one? Councillor Keith.
Yes, the question for Mr. Thompson is, how long has Sound Boat Works own that lot for this arrangement? And has there been any issues, or have things been fairly satisfactory?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I don't have an exact number of years, but a fair while, longer than I've been with the town. They have been utilizing that water lot for this purposes. We have never received any complaints, concerns, questions, comments, anything with regards to this particular license of occupation.
They've been there a long time. Yeah. Okay, any further discussion on this one? Nope. Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw? Okay, that's carried. Okay. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that bylaw number 2021-7129 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2004-4653, the zoning bylaw as amended for 88 and 94 Louisa Street, John Jackson Planner Incorporated, on behalf of King Shot Crookshank, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Horn, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion on this one? Nope. Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw? No, it's carried then. Okay, moved by Councillor Backman is back. Moved by Councillor Backman, seconded by Councillor McCann, that bylaw number 2021-7130, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read at first. All members in favor of having the second and third readings above mentioned be considered as read, a second and third time passed, signed, and sealed. Anyone opposed to the passing of this bylaw? Nope, that's carried. Okay. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held via Zoom video conferencing and will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas, the minutes, and instructions on accessing live, streamed, and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices. Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. And for Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.